It started at a cozy little jazz lounge on the corner of 8th and River Street. The kind of place where dim lighting mixed with smooth saxophone notes and the faint clinking of cocktail glasses made the world outside melt away. David Foster, 58, had just wrapped up another exhausting day running his small accounting firm in Chicago. He wasn't particularly fond of jazz, but he appreciated quiet corners and places where no one expected too much talking. And besides, the bartender, Ricky, knew his drink and neat bourbon and didn't water it down. That night, though, something felt a little off. Or maybe a little different. David hadn't noticed the woman until she leaned over the bar and laughed. It was the kind of laugh that carried, light, genuine, a little wild. She had honey-brown hair pulled into a loose bun, a fitted black blazer, and a confidence that stood out like a spotlight. Her name, as he'd later learn, was Claire. She was 34, an interior designer, and clearly much younger than David. But it wasn't just her age that made him hesitant. It was the way she spoke, not just with words but with looks, timing, pauses. David sipped his bourbon, catching himself glancing at her.
Once. Twice.
He wasn't one for games, never had been. His divorce 3 years ago had left him cautious. Out of sync. He believed women, especially younger ones, weren't interested in older men unless there was a motive. Claire, however, seemed different. She didn't glance around the bar like she was hoping to be rescued from boredom. She was fully present, listening, laughing. And now she was walking over to him. "Is that Elijah Craig 12? She asked, sliding onto the bar stool beside him without hesitation. David blinked. "It is. Not many recognize it."
She grinned.
"My dad swears by it. Says if you're going to drink bourbon, might as well drink something that tells a story." David chuckled. "Sounds like a wise man."
He is.
"Also a stubborn one," she said, then leaned in a little. Like most men over 50. There it was. The line. But David missed it. He smiled politely, assuming she was being friendly, maybe a little nostalgic. Maybe he reminded her of her father. That thought immediately made him shut down emotionally. He sipped his drink and nodded, keeping things surface level.
Claire picked up on it.
Her smile dimmed just a bit, but she didn't pull away. "You come here often?" she asked. "Every now and then," he said. "Nice place to unwind." She nodded, swirled her drink, then said something he'd reflect on for months afterward. "I always find men who drink bourbon neat tend to think more than they speak. But sometimes, what you don't say is more interesting than what you do." David gave her a puzzled smile. "That's so." She leaned in slightly. "And sometimes, not saying anything at all means missing your shot." David was polite.
Kind.
He didn't realize she was giving him an opening. He assumed, again, that she was just being clever. A little flirtatious maybe, but harmless. He changed the subject to the jazz band, and she responded, but the spark had shifted. Eventually, she smiled, thanked him for the conversation, and left. For weeks after, he couldn't stop thinking about it. The way she looked at him, the way her voice dropped on that last line. That one sentence echoed in his head like a riddle. Sometimes, not saying anything at all means missing your shot. It hit him on a Tuesday morning, while he was poring over spreadsheets and checking invoices. She wasn't being philosophical. She was making a move. And he'd completely missed it. At 58, David had grown so cautious, so used to reading between the lines of contracts and tax codes, he'd forgotten how to read human behavior. Or maybe he never really learned. His ex-wife, Susan, had once told him he was emotionally distant, that he thought too much, overanalyzed. At the time, he disagreed. But now, Claire's words haunted him. That night, he returned to the bar. Same spot, same drink, hoping maybe, by some strange twist of fate, she'd walk in again. She didn't. Not that night, or the night after. But on the third night, Friday, just when he was about to give up, she stepped in. Claire paused at the door, scanning the room, then smiled when she saw him. She walked over like she'd been expecting him. "I figured you'd need a few days to process," she said playfully. He laughed, more to himself than at her joke. "Was I that obvious?" She raised an eyebrow. You weren't obvious at all. That was the problem. He nodded, then turned to face her fully. Let me try again. She tilted her head. I'm David. I'm a little rusty at this. But I've thought about our conversation every day since we had it. And I'd really like to get to know you better. Over dinner. Somewhere other than a bar. Claire smiled, slow and warm. Took you long enough. They went to a small Italian place around the corner. Over pasta and wine, they peeled back the layers. Claire shared stories about her clients, how she'd once designed a kitchen for a couple who only ate takeout. David laughed about his disastrous attempt at dating apps. They both admitted their hesitations.
Age. Timing.
Baggage. She told him she liked older men because they listened more than they talked, but that didn't mean they shouldn't speak at all. He told her he liked her because she didn't play games. She said what she meant, even when he didn't catch it right away. By dessert, the connection was undeniable. She reached across the table, resting her hand on his. I don't do casual, she said. Not anymore. Me neither, he replied. From that night on, things moved slowly, but surely. David learned to pick up on subtler signals. He learned that not everything needed to be analyzed or doubted. Sometimes, interest is just that, genuine, simple, offered with a smile. Claire was patient. She didn't push, but she made her interest clear. And slowly, David stopped second-guessing everything. He stopped assuming a younger woman couldn't want an older man for the right reasons. One Sunday morning, 6 months later, as they sipped coffee on her apartment balcony, she looked at him and said, You know, that night at the bar when I said not saying anything meant missing your shot. He smiled. Yeah. I almost walked away thinking you didn't care. I did care. I just didn't believe someone like you would be interested in someone like me. She shook her head. That's what most older guys miss. We're not looking for perfect. We're looking for real. And real doesn't always come with smooth lines or flashy moves. Sometimes it just means showing up. Like you did. David squeezed her hand. Well, I'm here now. And I'm not going anywhere.
And he meant it.
Because sometimes, all it takes is one sentence to change everything. And the wisdom to finally hear it.